Hi, everybody. We want to talk about perception creates a reality. Now, all of us have heard it, but some of us don't understand it. So I want to give you a story out of Chicken Soup for the Soul, of course. In the Kid's Soul, we have a teacher that's got two kids that are arguing and they're just at each other's necks. And the teacher says, Johnny, you go over there. Sammy, you go over there. Goes into her desk, pulls out a giant ball and says, what color is it? Black. What color is it? White. Black, white, black, white. What, are you an idiot? You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Can't you see? Boys, switch sides. And the ball was exactly half black and half white. Because our perception is our reality. What you see, feel, think, smell, and hear is your perception. All of them have names to it, of course. The five names that you all know, which is visual, auditory, olfactory, smell, touch is haptic, and gustatory is taste. And you've got an inner sense for your outer sense. But I really want to talk about perceptions of what we perceive. Now, a lot of people assume, well, you sold all those great books and you made a lot of money, so you don't have any problems. No, I had a billionaire, T. Boone Pickens, say, look, I'm a billionaire, but I got a billion problems where most people with a million just have a million. All you do is, and then I heard Clem Stone say, all you do is you change the amount of zeros to the size of the problem that you solve. So, if you take care of little things, you can take care of big things, right? That's why Christ said, if you take care of a little, I'll give you kingdoms and empires to rule. Well, the same's true here. So you got to take care of the little stuff in the right way. Now, I own and am the seminal investor in a company called naturalpowerconcepts.com. I'd love you to go look at it. It is run by a genius, a Leonardo da Vinci of our time in Oahu, Hawaii. We got great videos at naturalpowerconcepts.com. But this guy, I met him down in Florida. I'm on the board of directors of Wylands Foundation. He's the world's greatest marine artist. He's a commercial artist and very profitable. And he has a lot of artists working and writing and painting for him. And one of them is John Petrie. And I meet Petrie down there. Petrie shows me these videos that literally lit up my mind, lit up my life. And I said, that is the future. That will work. He's got 248 major and patented inventions, but one is called a pop-up windmill for urban wind. It goes 360 degrees and it does low, slow wind and creates kilowatts. Now, I saw that 12 years ago and wrote the first check for $1 million and have written a lot more since then to keep the company alive for 12 years, and the money has been frozen. Well, a couple of years ago, along comes a guy named Kevin Carr, who is a money guy who sees the same thing I see. He perceives a reality where we can have adequate, green, clean, sustainable energy that lasts forever. Because the beautiful thing is, solar energy is great, basic times, 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., depends on where you are relative to the equator of the earth. And wind energy comes up exactly at 6 p.m. at night and goes down, as it slows down again at 6 a.m. roughly in the morning. Depends on where you live. But there are places that have high wind regimes, and they happen to be the places with the highest amount of solar incidence, and that's where we ought to create our energy. Well, this guy, Kevin Carr, gets behind it, finds all the problems, and comes up with all the solutions. And we finally are ready to manufacture in high volume and have big orders for our pop-up little windmills, urban windmills called, I just can't even pronounce it. It's so good. I'm not supposed to say the name of it. That's why I'm stuttering a little bit. But just assume that the pop-up windmill is coming, right? And all of a sudden, yesterday, the newspaper comes out, and I read the news very fast early in the morning on my cell phone. I go through the top of the news, and sure enough, we know that there's been a storm from the northeast down through Texas. Texas has had an ice storm. 25% of their wind energy comes from wind, thanks to T. Boone Pickens, who was a friend of mine while he was alive. And that wind takes the water out of the ground, and it makes it so they can pull energy out of the ground, the oil, and all of his windmills are giant windmills, but these windmills are run with turbines that have frozen, and now millions and millions of people are without any energy and they're having rolling blackouts. And I go, oh my gosh, we've just sold this. We've got all these investors that are doing big time stuff, because when you're doing big wind and machinery in volume, it costs tens of millions and hundreds of millions of dollars, and I don't have that. But there are companies and hedge funds that do and have all said yes to us. Well, boy, that just, my perception, it was my reality. It just took the wind out of my sails, so to speak, and it sort of punctured my little optimistic balloon, because we're just ready to do this after 12 years. I've been sitting on this thing, and I go, oh my gosh, this is going to ruin my day. And it did. I let it ruin my day. And I called Kevin Carr and I said, hey, look, what is happening in Texas? He says, oh, don't you see that? That's the best news ever. I've had 6 other calls out in the news, but this is what you've got to appreciate. Our windmills have no moving parts. Our windmills in too high a wind close down mechanically and fold up. In the cold, they do exactly the same thing. There's no driver in them. There's no thing in them that can freeze. And all the investors that called said, we want to speed up the process. We want to invest more in it, because the old windmills, when they get ice on it, they break. And now they're perpetually out of business for the next almost 6 months before you can get another 36-foot blade. Ours are portable. Ours are mobile. Ours are, you drive them in, set them up, they move, and they're good for 20 years of energy at a very, very high profit. And we figured out a way to do that and help everybody get part of this thing. And it is so exciting that we got more than enough power, and temperature doesn't affect our windmills, and snow and ice don't sit on our windmills, and because we don't have a turbine like theirs, and we don't have any thing that can freeze up. So it turns out that we have the best thing ever, and it just will work better than anybody else. And it's so nice to know that his mindset saw the solution rather than a problem. And when you have the water, you can have energy. And like right now, they're saying, well, we got to bring in all these turbines from FEMA, Federal Emergency Management Association. And in the future, they will be bringing in our windmills, because we can go anywhere. We can plug into any system. We can make it. And, you know, they will work for 20 years. And if you stop needing energy in that area, because everybody moves out, like they're moving out of New York and people are moving out of parts of California right now, you just move them to wherever it is. Whereas those other big, hefty windmills are solid, locked in. They are not going to go anywhere. Ours are like a mobile home. So he totally changed my perception. I went from being glum and unhappy, which is dangerous at every level, because when you think negative, feel negative, you attract negativity, you create more negativity, and you work against yourself. That's what I'm trying to teach you here. So you've got to control your perception so you control your life. And obviously I did what a lot of us would do, jump to conclusions. I said, oh no, because those windmills are in trouble, all windmills are in trouble. No. We're a little late in this little discussion, but you say, well, what is perception? Well, Webster says it's the ability to see, feel, hear, and believe, and then become aware of something. Perception is a creativity from the experience of the world around us. Now, what you believe is what you achieve. I started to believing, oh no, all my money is going to go. Instead, it's just the opposite. Once you have the truth. Now, Jesus always said, judge not by appearances, but by righteous judgment. And what does it mean to judge by appearance? Well, very simply, judge by appearance is part of the three-dimensional world. And the three-dimensional world is a world of adverse experiences. And the beautiful thing about you changing your perception is that when you eradicate the fog, you take off the blinders, you get to see clearly. And each and every one of us need to have a new perception where we clearly see that we're going to have a heart's fulfillment. Now, my heart's fulfillment of these windmills and pulsating wave machines, all of which you'll see when you look at the videos, is that we're in the most incredible time ever. Fundamental abundance has always been available, but first you got to have energy. That's why E equals MC squared. E is all the energy of physical universe in two forms: matter, solid like this, or the table, or my computer, or the building blocks of this room, or radiant energy, which comes in a lot of form, like the light facing into you, the sun I see outside here in the Sonora Desert. The point is a fulfillment of my desire. It isn't me. I want the windmills so we have good, clean, green energy for everybody, everywhere in the world. And I'm giving thanks to the perfection of understanding at a higher level of wisdom, which is what you do when you go into the fourth dimension, a higher consciousness, which is where we're supposed to do. Because when you go into higher consciousness, you can think of the desires of your heart fulfilled. And every time you have a failure, you've got to baptize it by just going, it's going to be a success, 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 it's going to be a success. Because if you pound that into the depth, the inner spaces of your mind, if you implode it in deeper, innermost, highermost being, it will obviously become a success. Now, for 12 years, I've said this is going to be a success, and we didn't have a manufacturer. We didn't have the final engineering. We didn't have all that stuff. Finally, we've got all that stuff. It's really ready to burst onto the screen in just big, wonderful way. And what I'm saying is the power of perception sweeps your mind, body, and affairs if you use it as divinely planned, where what we're teaching you in our Ask book is you got to ask right. And I had to ask the right question to find out that we weren't going to be out of business and crushed by a snowstorm that nobody had ever suspected was aberrant. No one ever saw it coming. No one ever thought anything like that could happen, right? And the divinity is you get rid of the appearances. You go to a higher level of mind by asking right. Then you start to think right. You perceive right. You talk right. And you get the right results right here and right now. And the right results are, we now have investors going crazy saying, hey, look, we want part of natural power concepts because you got little windmills that aren't going to freeze, that are going to keep working, that are portable, that are mobile, that are going to give people everywhere energy. And remember, half the world, 4 billion people, do not have energy. All the islands pay exorbitant amounts, 58 cents up to $1 a kilowatt in little remote islands to fill their diesel machines. Now they're going to have what they've got, trade winds, which are like in Hawaii where I lived for a while, go in 7 different directions at once. So the point is, perception creates reality. And whatever you perceive, sooner or later, in the internal perception, becomes your external awareness. You can start to control your internal state of mind, beingness, and perception, and therefore control your outer perception. The inner controls the outer. That's why the big guy said, the kingdom of heaven is within, and it shows up without, and all things will be added. I'm asking you to add all good things by perceiving right, asking right, talking right, living right, and achieving right. Your right use, right brain can create an immensely wonderful, fulfilling, heartfelt